etc. Welcome to another episode of Asexualise, my Asexual Life. This is a place to be for education about asexuality, all things asexual. I share my asexual life journey, all to help you in yours. If you haven't already subscribed, please hit that great big subscribe button right here, right now. Please hit that bell icon so you get notified of every time I go live like now, post a video. So in a moment, we're going to be discussing the benefits of being with an asexual person. So as a heterosexual person, you might think, why would I want to be with an asexual person? So that's what we're going to be discussing in this live stream. First of all, though, if you don't know who I am Sandra Bellamy, author of this awesome Asexual Perspectives 47 Asexual Stories books. This is real life asexual stories. So if you're new to the asexual spectrum, don't understand asexuality, that is a perfect book for you. I've also got a book out called Fibromyalgia Self-Help Handbook, which is how to manage fibromyalgia to have less pain, more energy, and feel happier like a superhero rock star. So if you love books that have got a superhero style theme, go for that one. Links are down below in the description. So yes, today's episode is all about what if you're heterosexual and you're basically thinking, why would I want to be in a relationship with an asexual? Like, what would be the benefits to a heterosexual person? So you might be thinking, like, what is asexuality if you're new to this channel? And you might be thinking, like, why wouldn't a heterosexual be with an asexual if you are indeed asexual, or if you don't understand what asexuality is all about? So asexuality is a genuine sexual orientation that is a lack of sexual attraction. If we take this book, for example, this is asexual. So basically A with the sexual together, all one word, is asexual. It means absence of sexual attraction. And, you know, when you're absence of sexual attraction, it basically means you don't get the need, urge, or want for partnered sexual intercourse. So I'm an asexual person. I was born asexual, but never realised it till 2014. And I've never looked at a guy, even any of my exes, and thought, God, I want sex with you. Like, that doesn't cross my mind, didn't cross my mind. I have had sex in the past, and I pretty much thought I had to do it as part of a normal relationship, but I had it a lot less than most people probably would. And so, yeah, I am experienced in that department. And yeah, so if I don't want sex, if I don't experience sexual attraction, for me, I'm a personally sex repulsed asexual. Like, what would be the point if you're a heterosexual person being with an asexual person? Hello, Liam. Hey, Sandra, you're beautiful. You're like an asexual superhero. Oh, thank you, Liam. That's made my day because I love being like a superhero. You know, I'm Ace Fibro Girl, right? I don't know if you've seen acefibrogirl.com. So ace meaning asexual, fibro girl. Like, I'm in my superhero outfit on my book. The back of my book. Yeah, I think you've seen it, haven't you? That's me in my superhero outfit. Can you see? Ace Fibro Girl. There we are. I'm eating a Chinese at the time. So yeah, it's lovely to see you. So a heterosexual person is sexually attracted to the opposite gender sex. Now, obviously, there's different sexual orientations, different people that are sexual, but as the largest population on the planet is still heterosexual, that's why I've decided to title this video Heterosexual. And so I'm back on Facebook dating. It is an experience, I'll say. Last date I had, video date, was very good, even though the guy's not spoke to me since. I guess he's decided that we're completely incompatible. And that's fine. I wish him all the best. But it was a still nice video date, right? And I appreciate good experiences like that. It's nice, right? And so anyway, you know, so people who are heterosexual, you're a stunning superhero. Oh, lots of love, Liam. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. It's really nice. And so, yeah, so heterosexuals who like sex might be thinking, why should they be with an asexual person, or heterosexuals in general? So obviously a heterosexual person does experience sexual attraction. They experience sexual attraction to the opposite gender or sex. So I'm female. If I was heterosexual, which I'm not, I would be attracted sexually to guys. I'm not a sexual person. I'm not heterosexual. I'm hetero-asexual, if you like. I've mentioned that before in this video. And that's what I usually use when I'm talking on dating sites, because asexual is kind of a lot more standout than heteromantic. You know what I mean? Asexual guys who are heterosexual probably are not going to notice any distinct difference. Whereas if I say I'm asexual compared to heterosexual, we'll be like, hang on, what does asexual mean? So that's why I purposely do it that way on Facebook dating, for example. So anyway, yeah, most guys who are heterosexual do want sex, and we have to understand that heterosexuality is also a spectrum, which is not very much talked about. So there's going to be people who are heterosexual that really want a lot of sex. They want it every day, maybe 3 times a day, right? They want it a lot, right? Their sex drive is really high. And in the very least, they want it once a day, right? They want it daily, right? The average heterosexual person usually needs sex 3 times a week. That's what I've discovered in my journey of life, shall we say. So for me, that's like 3 times a week is just far too much. It's like 12 times a 4-week month, right? It's just really too much. And so these days, I don't want any sex. I don't like it. I'm not into it for me. I'm happy for other people if they like it, go for gold, but it's not my thing, right? And so I'm just feeling that way because I'm not sexually attracted to anyone. If you're not sexually attracted to anyone, then unless you like the act of sex itself, it's pretty off-putting. It's like, well, if I don't get the need or want for sex, then why would I actually want to go ahead and do it when I'm kind of like don't naturally want it? Obviously, there are a lot of reasons you could try it or want to try it. So heterosexuality, like I said, is a spectrum. There may be some heterosexuals that don't need sex 3 times a week. They might be able to do with it a lot less. Similarly, there are asexuals on the asexual spectrum who are sex positive, who are also maybe, instead of sex positive, they might be sex neutral, sex indifferent. They might want to try it as an activity to do. They might just be intrigued by it. They might have a high sex drive, but actually have no sexual attraction towards anyone, which is quite rare, but there are a few asexuals that report that. So those type of people who are on the asexual spectrum that are very kind of sex positive or don't mind doing it, they're okay with it, those might still suit a heterosexual, for example, because they don't mind having sex. Heterosexuals like sex, that might go together. However, the difficulty with that is probably the asexual person still wouldn't want sex as much as a heterosexual. So that would have to be negotiated, and it would depend on the heterosexual. I think if there's a heterosexual that wants sex every single day, that would probably be too much for the majority of people on the asexual spectrum that even sex positive, sex indifferent are okay with it, right? It just probably from what I understand from helping asexuals on this channel for like 6 years now, is that, it would still be too much for the majority of asexuals to do that. It'd be just too frequent, too often, right? So therefore, you have to be thinking, can a compromise be reached? Whereas heterosexual does have sex, but they have it less, but the asexual still can meet their sexual needs during that less time. Obviously, they're not going to be able to meet their full sexual needs. But say, for example, there's an asexual person who's sex repulsed like me, who doesn't want sex, doesn't need it, doesn't like it, doesn't appreciate it, doesn't want it near them, right? So why would a heterosexual person be with that person? Well, first of all, if it's a heterosexual person and they have to have sex in a relationship, and that's all they can see is a relationship comes with sex and it's non-negotiable to them, then you have no way of really that person seeing the personal benefit of being with an asexual person in a relationship to them. They won't see any benefit because you are not meeting their basic need and want and desire. So therefore, you're out of the equation of their relationship, which is, relationship potential, which is great because you don't want to be with someone who's the wrong person for you, vice versa, whatever sexual orientation you are. But just think for one moment that, that a sex repulsed asexual person, just think about what qualities that person has that could be offered to a heterosexual person if the heterosexual person didn't mind not having sex and they could refrain from having it and be monogamous, for example. Obviously, to just let you know, there are some asexuals that are polyamorous. So they don't mind if they get the heterosexual gets their sex elsewhere. So there is that as well. Liam, I'm asexual and aromantic and sex neutral. I didn't know that. Never looked at anyone and thought I would want to have sex with them. I didn't know you were sex neutral, so that's very interesting. Yeah, I've never looked at anyone like that either. So if we go to the sexual pulse asexual, like what has that person got to offer a heterosexual? Well, if you don't base a relationship on sex, and say it's a monogamous relationship, right? So a heterosexual gets into a monogamous relationship with a sexual pulse asexual. You might be like, why on earth would they do that? There are a few heterosexuals that do this. And so you might be puzzled, like, why? What's the benefit, right? Because you have to understand when a relationship is not based on sex. Sex is not part of a relationship. You have to focus a lot more on the other things, which are vastly overlooked usually in a traditional relationship when it has sex at its core, at its foundation, at its base, at its core needs, right? So your relationship is going to be based much more on what I call pure love, right? It's going to be getting rid of all that kind of like sexual shenanigans, as I call it, the sex basically. And you're going to be focused a lot more on the person's personality, right? Because if you are going to be with them forever, say in a monogamous relationship without sex, you're going to really have to love their personality, right? Their personality has kind of got to be like the excitement for you, the joy for you, the pleasure for you. So if you have someone who's got the most beautiful personality, most caring heart, really kind, who really understands you, that is a very huge benefit, right? Most guys that I've met and come across, heterosexual guys, one of the fundamental things they have in common, which most people don't realize, other than wanting sex, the majority of them obviously, is they want to be understood. Guys in general want to be understood. They feel very misunderstood and that no one really gets them. They kind of feel that society makes them be a certain way. They're supposed to be kind of this macho guy who's like kind of cool, strong, can do anything. And even in Facebook dating, I see some of these guys and the way they pose, it's like clearly you've got insecurities because you're just trying to show off your body, trying to show off your trying to show off your sexiness, but really haven't said much about yourself, right? And so the asexual person would be able, if the heterosexual person would allow them to, would be able to tap into that kind of like part of them that's maybe unhealed, which obviously it's not up to an asexual person or anyone to heal you, right? But if you've got kind of like insecurities, fears and worries, which is natural for anyone to have anyway, they're going to be able to understand you because they're not going to be like thinking of having sex with you and all this sexual energy and sexual tension. They are literally going to be focusing on you as a person. So they're going to be wanting to understand you, and they're going to be needing to be a best friend to you. So if you are a heterosexual person that wants to get with an asexual person or thinking about what's the benefits, you're going to get usually a really, really amazing best friend, right? And you're going to get someone who really understands you on a deep fundamental level. You're going to likely have shared interests and hobbies, because if you don't, you won't have much to base a relationship on if you haven't got a connection of the mind, soul, and kind of like spirit and hobbies and interests. So if you take sex out of the equation, you're left with a relationship which should be high in value, right? It should be a valuable relationship, as in you should be really deep best friends, right? Like, I wouldn't want this person to leave my life, right? If this something happened to this person right now, it wouldn't be good for me, right? Because I really have this deep friendship. You'd get on with a person on that level, and you would be acting as companions and camaraderies, and you would be kind of like really getting on as deep soul friends. Like, you would have like a very deep bestest friendship that goes far beyond what normal friendships, even good friendships, would have, right? and you're going to have like a very big trust with that person. If, you know, because asexuals don't in general tend to go off with other people. They're very loyal. They're not going to be going having sex behind your back. They're not going to be cheating on you in that way. And they're going to be very loyal, and they're going to really value you on a mind and personality level. And they're going to be very, very focused on listening to you, on sharing, like sharing commonalities like hobbies and interests together. And they're kind of going to be like that friend that you wish you had when you were like a teenager, if you like, you know, like that bestest friend, like take on the world together. That's kind of what you're getting with an asexual person, because they are really not focused on the genitalia. And so if you take away the genitalia aspect, the sex aspect, what are you left with? A relationship, right? You're left with the mind of the person. You're left with the personality of the person. You're left with the soul of the person, because you're not using so much of their body, if you like, you know? You won't feel used, you know? They're not going to have a one night sex stand with you in general, you know? They're not going to be doing that and then going off the next day and pretending like they never did that with you, you know? And so, you know, I come across some heterosexuals that have been cheated on, and they're really upset, and it is deeply, deeply traumatized them. Guys, I'm talking about. I've seen it even on Facebook dating profiles in the last like 12 hours. This guy's like, oh, my ex cheated on me, you know? And it really does, you know, break their trust a lot of times with other future women, right? And so if you, obviously, you might be a heterosexual female who's looking for a guy, and you might think, why should I be with a guy asexual? Because if you're with a guy asexual person, the guy is not going to be going off with other women, having sex with other women. They're going to pay a lot more attention to you, you see. A lot more, like, they're going to be wanting to know you as a person more. They're going to love you more for your personality. And that's very important, because at the end of the day, body shapes change, right? Sex drives do tend to change a lot, right? And so at the end of the day, as you grow old together, you're going to want someone who's your bestest ever friend. You're going to want someone who understands you, who you can tell your secrets to, who you can share things with on a deep level. And you're going to want somebody who's interesting, who's involved with projects. A lot of asexuals, because we're not focused on sex, we have a lot of interesting things going on in life, such as a lot of different projects and different hobbies and interests and different things and activities we get up to, because we're not so focused on sex. We're much more resourceful in that way. So you're going to get a person that's going to be with you who's very vibrant and enriched in their life, with like more and kind of focus on learning and growing and developing themselves, right? A lot of heterosexuals, you know, they're used to watching porn, they're used to watching a lot of TV programs and movies for the sex and the nakedness and the body parts, right? But if you're not interested in that type of thing, a lot of the time you either don't watch TV or you only watch certain set programs, right? And then the rest of the time you're busy on doing like things like arts, crafts, book clubs, photography, you know, like there's quite a lot of asexuals into gaming, listening to music. Sometimes they go to concerts, and they're kind of like a lot more interested in other stuff, activities, you know. So if you're thinking about growing old together with someone, what do you want? To be in a relationship with someone who just comes and watches the TV basically, and that's all they do, and they're kind of like fixated on porn and sex, and they're kind of like going to work, and you kind of come home, have a bit of a chat, have sex or whatever, and you know, then you have to strip off and you have to do all that rigmarole, and you know, it's kind of very time consuming, right? If you're not having sex, then that time that you could have been having sex and you're not, you can put towards more productive things, and even just spending the time cuddling the person, you know. I mean, as a heterosexual person, there are times when you'll come home from work and you'll be like, I'm really not up for sex anyway. You know, I just really want to cuddle. I want someone to listen to me. Had a really bad day at work. I want someone to listen to me. I'm not even interested in doing that type of thing at the moment, because I'm too busy fixated on the problem I had at work. I know I need to sort it out type thing, and you just want someone to hear you. So because asexuals are not focused on sex, they are focused on all this other stuff that's actually very neglected often in a relationship. They're focused more on wanting to spend quality time with you, usually more on wanting to chat, usually more on wanting to be cuddling with you, more on wanting to be like, you know, there for each other. So you're going to have a person that's going to be very stable for you, usually in that way, not going to cheat on you, very loyal, busy doing a lot of interesting things. And years later, that's going to be very good for you. You're going to be thinking, my God, I'm glad I've got someone who's kind of like intelligent or creative or both, and kind and loyal, and you know that you can grow old with this person, right? There's some people that you may want loads of sex with, but they might not be the person you could grow old with, because you'll be thinking, okay, the sex is great, but what else have we got? We don't have anything in common. We haven't got many hobbies or interests that we share at all. We're very, very different. Our circle of friends is different. We haven't really got anything we do for each other, you know, in terms of like mutual beneficial arrangements. It's kind of like, you know, we're having sex, going through emotions, going to work, coming home, going to bed, maybe going to go on a couple of holidays together, having a bit of fun like that. But, you know, there's nothing really substantial. So that when you retire or spend a lot of days together, especially like, for example, lockdown during COVID, you'll spend a lot of time together. You know, that sex might get very, very boring very quickly, and you might be like, well, what else is there to the relationship? Because you've been too focused on the sex, right? And so that's what a sexual relationship, in my experience, is usually surrounded by: work and a 9 to 5 job, coming home, maybe cooking some food together, having a chat, having sex, going to bed, that type of thing, you know, and days off, weekends, holidays, all that type of thing. It's very focused around sex. But when you focus a relationship on the other stuff, it's a lot more higher quality relationship usually, and you can kind of grow old together, knowing that the other person's got your back, knowing that they are there for you, knowing that you have a really deep companion and friendship for life. And that, you know, when you think about when you come into this world and you're kind of a teenager and you have that kind of like, or maybe you didn't, but you want that kind of bestest ever friendship, the one you can share things with, the ones that will understand you, listen to you, you can kind of like vibe back and forwards off each other. You know, and you really feel kind of free and comfortable around that person, and relaxed, and you can be yourself with them. And this is before all this sexual stuff starts happening, when certain things are expected in a relationship, and sex is a massive part of that, you know. And so you're kind of just chilling out, hanging out with your best mates, hanging out with your best friends. And, you know, if you think of like the opposite gender, because we're talking about heterosexual here, right? If we're talking about the opposite gender, and instead of looking at them like, oh, like say you're a guy and you've got male friends, and then you look at the woman girlfriend as just, oh, she's just a girlfriend. If you track your girlfriend like you do your best like male friends, you'd have a much more healthier, stronger relationship, and vice versa. Obviously, if it was a woman who's treating her male partner as good as she treated her females and was that into him, you know. A lot of the time, unfortunately, in heterosexual relationships, there's this thing where like, oh, if you're best friends with your partner, you're under the thumb, you're spending too much time with them, which is a completely really destructive, unhealthy thing to think. Like, you shouldn't be spending all your time with a partner, right? You should be spending time doing your own hobbies, doing your own interests, and with friends. But you still would be expected to make that person a priority in your life and spend the majority of your time with them when you're spending time with other people, right? Because that's why you're in a relationship. Otherwise, you may just be single, right? But having said that, you still need to kind of have that deeper side of a friendship. I come across a lot of foreign guys, for example. They're like brothers with their best male friends, even though they're not blood brothers, right? But with women, it's kind of them all standoffish. It's like, oh, that's my woman, you know? And it's like, if you treat her as an equal to your best male friends, and you was a best friend to her like you are to your best male friends, you know, then you'd be so close like this. You'd be like equals and close, right? Because your partner should be your ultimate best friend, ideally. That's what you want. You want this person to be your ultimate best friend, because you're going to spend the rest of your life with them. You're going to spend the most amount of time with them. You might be staying over their home, staying in their home, sleeping in the same bed as them, right? If you cannot be bestest ever friends, you're going to have a rocky road ahead. You're going to kind of feel disconnected from the person. You might love them. You might be really into them. There's going to be a certain disconnect there. There's going to be something that's not quite connected, not quite right, you know? And so you've got to understand that if you are looking for a long-term, serious, committed relationship, which is very difficult to get in the 21st century swipe culture, right? You are gonna get, more likely to get, in my opinion, a higher quality relationship from an asexual person that's more long lasting. Because a lot of the time with any relationship, sparks fly in the beginning. There's chemistry, even if there's asexual chemistry. Asexual chemistry might, for example, be that the asexual person is highly asexually attracted to a heterosexual, but the heterosexual is highly sexually attracted to the asexual. You see, that's a chemistry, but it's different types. But you're both giving chemistry out to each other, right? You might have both really strong romantic chemistry together. So you might be both hugely romantically attracted to each other, which is great. I think it's wonderful. But you have to understand that on the day-to-day grind of life, that isn't going to cut the mustard, right? In other words, you have to be able to, in any relationship, have an open, honest discussion about hard things, not just good things. You're going to have those robust conversations. If the opposite gender is just running away whenever you mention something serious, they're not going to be the right person for you to be in a relationship with. In general, because asexuals are not interested in sex, you should find that an asexual person is a lot more kind of wanting to get those fundamentals right. It's going to be very important for them to be kind of relaxed and comfortable with around you and each other. They're going to want to kind of sort that stuff out. They're going to want to have a strong base of, like relying in a healthy way on each other and being dependent in a healthy way with each other. And they're gonna kind of like, like I just said, this bestest friend element is so important. And people don't necessarily realize this for years. And then as they get older and they grow, they need to be growing together, not apart. And a lot of heterosexual relationships, they grow apart because the sex is what held them together, sexual chemistry in the beginning, and it fades with time a lot of the time. Not all the time, but a lot of the time it can. And then they're kind of like, they then start to usually look around for another partner because, oh, this person's not sexually satisfying me anymore. I'm not getting a thrill out of it. It's no surprise anymore, so I'm off. But if you actually decide that you are going to be with an asexual person, you are going to be monogamous, you don't want to cheat on them, you want to be faithful, then you are going to be looking for different stuff in the relationship. You're going to be basing it on different stuff. Daily social anxiety. Hello, lots of love to you. Another thing, which may be a bit gross to say, but I think it's fair to say, is some heterosexuals, well, some sexuals in general, are very good at self-pleasure, right? We're talking masturbation here, right? And so if you are with an asexual person, you have got to get really good at that, to be honest. If they're sex repulsed asexual, right? You've got to get really good at it, right? But there's some people, I knew a gay guy in my ex-work, and he was like, he was more into pleasuring himself than any dates he'd ever had, because he used to have casual sex. He used to be very open about it. I personally don't agree with that, but each to their own, isn't it? But but he liked doing that. He's like, oh, I can give myself more pleasure than anyone else. So, about it. I personally don't agree with that, but each to their own, isn't it? But but he liked doing that. He's like, oh, I can give myself more pleasure than anyone else. So, if you're the type of guy that does a lot of that with himself anyway, as a heterosexual person, it's like, why do you even need a physical person to do that with? Because you can take care of yourself, right? And some guys are really into that. They're really into doing things for themselves, right? And it kind of like, if you do stuff for yourself and pleasure yourself, you know how to hit all the right spots and do the right stuff for yourself, rather than trying to tell someone what to do and try and get that right and not feel satisfied. You can just do that yourself. So you've got like the best of both worlds. You please yourself physically and that way, and then you've got like the cuddles with the asexual person. The majority, not all, of asexuals love cuddling, so you'll get all the kind of cuddles, and cuddling is more cute, and it's more like friendship based, and it's more, it's more like you just feel warmth, that someone's there for you on a cold winter's day, for example. Sometimes you just want to cuddle. People kind of naturally want to cuddle for comfort and to feel appreciated and to feel seen and to feel like they've got someone there for them through tough times. And like, you'll get that with an asexual person usually, because asexuals kind of focus more on that stuff. They focus on kind of like just being there, like two lovebird canaries, if you know what I mean. They don't even have to be romantic in nature, but I'm talking about most heterosexuals, if they're going to be with an asexual person, if they're romantic heterosexual, they usually want to be with a romantic asexual person. There are some aromantic sexuals, aromantic heterosexuals that could be with an aromantic asexual person. That might work out well. Liam, sex can destroy a relationship and people don't even know it. Exactly. You've summed it up very well, Liam. What I've been trying to say for half an hour, you've pretty much summed up. I love it when my viewers do that, because it's great, because it means you understand what I'm actually saying, even though I've said it in a very long way. But yeah, sex can destroy a relationship and people don't even know it, and it's usually because the focus is on that, and as time goes on they do not realize how different they are and that they've not got much in common, and there's personality clashes and they just can't get on anymore. And a lot of that is because they got together for the sexual reasons in the first place, and it kind of clouds the judgment of the future of the relationship, right? It's very strange being on Facebook dating for me, because I just forget how the rest of the world are, and when you go on there I'm like, oh, they base their relationships around sex. I really forget about that a lot of the time. It brings the reality home. I'm like, oh my god, really? It's like, why? Because when you've lived out sex so long, I've been sex-free 10 years this month. I don't know what day of the month in October 2011 I last had sex. I know it was one day in October. But yeah, sex-free for 10 years now, basically, and for the end of this month, definitely. And it just feels fantastic. You know, I think sex can, personally for me, I think it can be very messy. It's a lot of energy, a lot of effort. It can hurt. All the foreplay stuff can be very, you know, like, hurt as well. It's kind of like, when I say hurt, right, you could be doing stuff to a guy and your wrist hurts and stuff like that, right? So without going into all the details. But you know, it's kind of like, it's a lot of effort. It's like another job. And I think a relationship is a full-time job anyway. To actually add another full-time job into the full-time job is kind of like a bit like, oh my god, it's a bit much, right? But when you've not got the sex, you're not focusing on sex at all, I think the relationship is a lot more straightforward. And it's kind of like easier in the sense that, you know, you can just like get on with the person's personality, their hobbies, their interests, the core beliefs and values. You can kind of strip off the layers of the person a lot more, if you like, and see if you're compatible or not, even in dating relationships, right? You're able to get to the core. I think a lot of asexuals are very upfront about, you know, like sexual stuff. Not all of them. I mean, a lot of them aren't out, but the ones that are upfront, they tend to be quite upfront, you know? It's like when I'm on Facebook dating, it's like, I'm not interested in sex, you know? And it's like, save yourself the bother, right? There's no point in carrying on. Like, they had this guy say, look, I'm beautiful, right? With a couple of kisses. He's British. Oh, I'm not interested in British guys, but I thought I'd reply anyway and thank him. I said, but we're not looking for the same thing in a relationship. He's like, oh, no, we're not. Shame, really. And I said, I wish you well, you know? And it's kind of like, you know, it's like cut to the chase, right? If I'm not interested in sex, it's you know, I'm not interested in sex. But usually with asexuals in general, you would actually find out physical compatibility very early on, which I think is very important in any relationship, because you don't want further down the line to realise you're just completely incompatible. And, you know, like the Facebook date I had last night, he was asking what I was looking for in a relationship, and I was very honest that I'm not normal. even with or without my asexuality, I'm not normal, but with my asexuality, I'm very not normal. And so I kind of prepared him for what was coming up, and then I told him I don't like sex, don't want marriage, don't want kids, don't like to live together. I bet he thought, oh my god, what the heck have I come across? Because to a heterosexual person, that's the exact opposite of their normal. And it probably must be like coming across an alien or something. Like a nice alien, a beautiful alien, but still an alien. But obviously with asexuals, we sometimes feel like an alien anyway, because it's kind of like we're speaking a completely different language to them. And so, you know, like for an asexual, we Liam, you're a good, beautiful person. Any guy. Oh, thank you, Liam. That's really nice. I prefer. Yeah, I think you were trying to say any guy would be happy to have you, and you're lucky to have you. I think that's what you were trying to say. I got what you were trying to say. Thank you. You know, and I think, you know, there is a lot of benefits, like I said, with being an asexual person. Their personality, the womankind heart, the fact they can live without sex, they're not going to cheat on you. They're usually going to be very loyal. Well, they're not going to cheat on you physically anyway. They're going to be very loyal to you. They're going to probably be more focused on the more kinder, loving elements of a relationship. They're going to be wanting to understand you. They're going to be wanting a lot of communication with you. They're going to be wanting to share secrets with you. They're going to be the best friend you always wish you had. You know, and I think a lot of asexuals got very kind hearts, and the fact we can, you know, the fact we can see things without sex and see the relationship without sex, I think it gives us a great insight, which I think if you're in a relationship with an asexual person, they can give you a lot more insight into your relationship with them, and they can see things a lot more clearly, probably. And from that, you can kind of like talk to each other about it, discuss, and kind of grow and develop together as people, you know. And you know, if you think about all the sex you're not having, you're going to be able to spend a lot more time doing your own hobbies and interests, and also becoming a better person, really, for yourself and obviously for the relationship, because you're going to be focusing on other things. Like when I do Facebook dating, if I've got a guy who just wants sex, marriage, kids, come home, go to work, die, basically, it ain't going to interest me. I'm going to be so bored. So I have to have guys that have got some sort of hobbies, some sort of interest. Liam, you're a good and beautiful person, Sandra. Anyone would be so lucky to have you. Thank you. Mwah. Lots of love to you. I really appreciate that. Yeah, it's getting the right guy to notice that, though, isn't it? You know, I think I think it's a shame because I do see some guys who are very lonely, who haven't actually had sex for maybe 2 or 3 years, and they do want someone to love them. They do want a best friend. They do want someone to care for them. They do want someone to talk to, but they'd rather wait and keep waiting for a sexual person that's not actually necessarily going to be the right person for them to be with anyway. They might have good sex with them or sex with them, and that might be it. And so it's kind of like you're spending years of your life not having sex anyway, but yeah, you've got to have sex in a relationship. And it's kind of, but you're living without sex anyway for years. So why not be in a relationship with a person who's kind, caring, loving, committed to you, loyal, without sex than being single? But obviously that's not how sexuals see it a lot of the time. Sexuals see it as, well, that's something they need in a relationship. I do understand that, because as an asexual person, I need kissing in a relationship. But obviously I used to go nightclubs to get kissing in the end, because I really needed the kissing a lot. So I couldn't be without kissing in a relationship. So I do understand from that point of view, because I couldn't be without kissing, as some sexuals can't be without sex. So, you know, but if you're thinking about the benefits of being with an asexual person, you're getting a kind, warm heart, a beautiful person. You're getting that unique person is a very important point as well, because there's only one of that person. You can't replace that person with sex from another person. That person's personality and persona and aura is unique. And so if you ever come across an asexual person, you think, like, I just can't be with any other person because I want this particular person, this particular personality, you know. So you should go for that. And if it means giving up sex, if you can give up sex, then go for that. Because if you've just imagine if you've given up sex, the asexual person is going to be so devoted to you, usually so utterly devoted and appreciative and grateful and thankful, and kind of like it's going to make them kind of like just love you even more. You know, and obviously there's, you know, if you're heterosexual, right, let's take the other extreme example. You're heterosexual, but maybe you've got actually you've got erectile dysfunction, or you've got some sort of health condition or disability that prevents you having sex, right? There's going to be a lot of benefits for you to be with an asexual person, because you're going to be able to have someone who can live without sex and be with you and still love you, right? Whereas most heterosexuals in general can't do that. But if you're a heterosexual person who can't have sex for some reason, rather than being asexual yourself, then you could be with an asexual person and have someone love you without needing sex. There are fibromyalgia, obviously, what I've got is some people with fibromyalgia can't have sex because it's too painful. Most people who have fibromyalgia are women, not men, but there are a few men that got fibromyalgia, right? And the few men that have got fibromyalgia, they're going to need a woman usually who doesn't need sex because it's too painful and their body's too tired, they're too knackered, they don't want to be going through all that, rigmarole. They just want to have someone love them, care for them, nurture them, understand them, be there for them, be a best friend to them, cuddle them, maybe kiss them, hold their hand, be close to them, but without needing the sex, and obviously be understanding when they're in so much pain, and so you have to understand that there are people out there like that are heterosexual, but just because someone's heterosexual doesn't mean to say they need sex or want sex or can have sex. So for those people, an asexual person who doesn't need or want sex would be ideal, because you'd be able to get the love that you haven't been able to find elsewhere with a person who really genuinely means it, who's not going to go off with someone else, and who's going to give you love, care, time and attention that you deserve and need without the sex, right? And so that's a huge benefit. I once came across a site, a forum, I think it was, and there was these women talking, and they were just basically saying they could not be with a guy with erectile dysfunction because they need sex. And so basically they were just dumping these guys, and so if you have got erectile dysfunction and you just can't have sex, then you have to understand that it's hugely beneficial for you to be with an asexual person, because you're going to get all the benefits of the relationship you would have had, but without sex, which you can't have anyway. So I think that's perfect. So, and you can finally get the love you deserve and want and need, and everyone deserves and loves. Everyone deserves to have love and caringness and kindness and support, and you should be getting that excuse me, without conditions. And so with an asexual person, you're not going to have the condition of sex, needing sex. Oh god, I think I need to rest my voice. I've been out today with my friend. I'll get some rest. But yeah, so anyway, I hope you found this video beneficial, helpful, and if you have, please give it a thumbs up. As always, subscribe. Don't forget to hit the bell icon. I want to thank Liam for being in chat tonight. Love you, Liam, you're amazing. And thank you to Daily Social Anxiety too. And yeah, take heed of what Liam says as well, that basically it's good to love without sex, and sex can destroy relationships. Don't think it's always a good thing, So love without sex is just as beautiful, in my opinion, more beautiful than love with sex, because when you love without sex, you're loving the pureness of the soul of the person, the personality and everything else, and that to me is the glue and foundation of any successful relationship. So you've always got the right ingredients there in the first place. Anyway, lots of love to you. I'll see you on the next live stream. Thanks a lot. Love you. Bye.